You're listening to Central Wisconsin's 24-hour information station, AM 1320 WFHR. It's time now for the Morning Magazine, brought to you by Comfort Air Heating, Cooling, Plumbing. Now, with the Morning Magazine, here's Carl Hilke.
Thank you, Jerry, and good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's show on AM 1320 and streaming live at WFHR.com. It's time for a update on everything happening in Wood County. Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon is here, and so is Jesse from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, recording this in high definition for viewing on their fine website or on your local public access channel on your cable system. With that, we say good morning to the Chairman of the Wood County Board, Doug Machon. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Carl. Jesse, it's nice to be here on this very snowy morning. For those of you at home that can't see, I do have my pack boots on.
Oh, yeah.
Dog sled is out front. Still training the dogs on the stoplights, but we made it.
Yeah, it's been since, let's see, when I got here this morning after the 5 o'clock hour, it was starting to snow again, and it's been snowing pretty steady all day. So does this mean that we might see the opening of some snowmobile trails, or more importantly, the Powers Bluff recreation area?
Two different situations there, but yeah, that's a good question, especially appropriate on today. But probably, I talked to Parks Director Chad Schooley, and we were pretty bare at Powers Bluff, so we probably are looking at needing an additional probably 4 inches to open that facility. Hopefully we can get it. I don't know if we'll get it out of this storm, but with the cold temperatures, at least what we do have probably should stick for a while. But there is some ongoing some snowmobile clubs in Juneau County, which have trails that come into the southern part of Wood County, are actually actively surveying trails right now and doing some grooming. So the possibility of opening those up even maybe this weekend is a possibility.
And we're supposed to get maybe several inches of snow the Sunday night through Monday period. Mm-hmm. So there's another storm coming our way, and I would imagine that at that point, if we got that with the cold weather,
I would think then that we would probably be looking at opening Powers the following weekend if we could pick up that additional 4 inches. It certainly would be nice to get that facility open. You know, it's a good revenue source for us. Not only that, but it's a great activity for the residents of Wood County, and a lot of people look forward to it. And hopefully we can get it opened up this year.
It says here another low pressure system could bring several inches of accumulating snow to the area Sunday night and Monday.
Great. I'm usually not in a position to wish for snow. However, it's been a particularly dry year, and we could use some snow. We could use some moisture.
Well, we also got the lakes frozen over now, solid, and so the ice fishing season is well underway.
I see they must have opened the east side of, the west side of Netco recently, because as I drove across the bridge yesterday coming from the south, I glanced to my left, and there was a truck out on the western side of the bridge. So apparently they must have opened the gate there at by the dam. Okay,
so people can go ice fishing. We'll have various events coming up, like the Jamboree, Port Edwards Lions Club Jamboree this Sunday. You got the Polar Plunge coming up that the sheriff will be involved in.
Yep, I talked to the sheriff about that, yeah.
But I wanted to get your thoughts. Now, I understand you were under the weather. You had a bout with the bug.
Yep.
And so you missed the county board meeting. But I would I'm sure, though, that you are probably have been brought up to speed on a couple of judicial and legislative committee recommendations. One is to approve the implementation of a standardized process for filling positions of vacated constitutional offices. What are we talking about, sir?
Well, that's basically to have an established format for if someone resigned an elected office within a certain time frame, it would give the committee and I don't know exactly how it's going to shake down, how they want to do it, but it would give the committee the right to either call for a special election or appoint someone, and I don't know which way they want to go exactly on that or how it will end up, but it's going to put some options into place that would be standard procedure. Then it wouldn't be a hit and miss type thing.
Okay. The other big one that got a lot of media coverage was the fact that they're going to measure public opinion on the whole issue of medical marijuana and marijuana in general.
Yeah.
Your thoughts about that?
Very controversial. I would have voted against that resolution. There's a number of reasons to do it. A resolution like that with referendums,
it doesn't do anything.
Yeah, those things are going to be taken care of at the state level, and you can do them. What they're worth is debatable. We did them before. We did minimum wage. We did expanded Medicare. It had no effect in Madison. I mean, they were overwhelmingly supported in the county, but in the general election, there was no traction there, and nothing happened. So their worth and value is debatable. I think sometimes we tend to use those as political ploys to maybe get out votes from certain constituencies. I don't know if there's a real issue there or not. As we talk about medical marijuana, it's two different things. Recreational and medical marijuana are probably they're completely two different issues, and you're probably going to get different results, drastically different results.
I'll give you an example. Senator Patrick Teston favors medical marijuana because he had a member of his family that benefited from it, and also he. Because of the opiate. This might be considered a safer alternative to opioids. And so that's likely going to be debated in the state legislature. And it sounds like if it passes, the governor will sign it. And that seems to be, of all of them, the most likely one. So why the county would have to...
Yeah, and there again, the merit and the value of it is something that we could sit and talk about all day. The odd thing to me, or the ironic thing to me, is that a constituency that would probably support medical marijuana is probably a generation of people that are seeing the benefits. I know a number of people, some relatives, that are on hemp oil that swear by it.
And that's a different thing entirely.
Exactly.
Hemp oil is...
But it kind of goes down that same track. And it's changed their lives. And it's when you're in your 80s and you have something that can make that drastic of a change in your mobility or pain relief or things like that, obviously you're going to be advocating. That same constituency, I could not see favoring a recreational use for marijuana. So... it's a coin with two sides, and how that falls is kind of funny. But
now, like we were just talking about, it looks like winter is ramping up. If we get the snow that they're forecasting with the cold conditions, we still got time to make some serious money in the county and winter recreation. Do you think?
I would certainly hope so, and of course that depends on. Number one, we have to get the base down at Powers Bluff. If the continued cold weather persists, then we'll maintain that base. Once those tracks turn to, for lack of a better term, ice on those tubing runs, if you keep the temperatures, that's all you need. I mean, tubing's about, those tracks get icy and very hardened quickly, and that's what it takes for frictionless tubing, which is what you want. So you can maintain without additional snow at that point. The skiing's probably a little bit different, but the tubing's the moneymaker there, and that's what you want to do.
That's why everybody's a kid again.
Yeah, exactly, including myself. I've instructed, or I haven't instructed, but I've asked Chad Schooley that. I said, as the county board chair, I kind of tube annually. I maybe make a trip out there. My wife hates it, but I love it, and she'll sit in a warming house, and I'll jump on a tube a couple of times. I'm still a kid, and I said, I would like to open that hill, please. Let me be the first one down.
If you're just joining us on the Morning Magazine, welcome. We're visiting with Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon. Yeah, we don't think about those kind of hills. In fact, ski resorts are putting in tubing hills. That has become a very low-cost form of family recreation.
Yeah.
You don't have to go buy a whole bunch of skis or just go down a tube.
Yep.
And be willing to get a little snow on you.
Yeah, exactly. If there's some snow there.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but you always have some kind of mist coming up from the
now, correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the improvements that's being planned for Powers Bluff would be some snow making equipment.
Correct.
Yeah, so then that would alleviate a lot of things. When it's like a day, say when it's cold, like tomorrow, you could run the guns.
Oh yeah, you could be running. You would be running guns for quite a while earlier in this week and going through the weekend into next week. And what you do in that situation is you build a pile of snow basically, and then you can move it around to create your base. And once that base is there, even if it warms up considerably, I mean, if you're around freezing or below, you're gonna maintain your base, and that can, if it's done properly. If you look at Granite Peak, they're beginning to run their guns early November when the temperatures are right at night to build those piles of snow to move around to get a base, because they want to open around Thanksgiving every year. They want to extend their season. Yeah,
and they also learned that when you're up on a mountain like that, a mountain, you got to know which way the wind is blowing. I don't know. You remember that incident they had? Folks, if you might not remember it, but it made the national video and national news and everything. They created an instant blizzard in downtown Wausau because they fired up the guns on a day when the wind was blowing from the Rib Mountain right downtown, and there were crashes. I mean, there were whiteouts, and it's like everybody. Nobody said there was a storm coming. Well, it wasn't. It was the snow guns on the ski.
Artificial weather. I think that was some kind of a Defense Department experiment.
But I'll never forget that. And seeing the video and stuff of it, and it looked just like a snowstorm, except it was man-made. Yeah. and
they're actually looking at expanding that hill again. So that tells you there's some viability to the whole paradigm of snowmaking equipment. And its use and its usefulness.
Now, Powers Bluff draws from all over Wood County and even outside of Wood County, I've heard. It's a major tourist draw.
It's perfectly set up for Marshfield, Wisconsin Rapids. That's for sure. That's why it's such an obvious spot for any kind of development as far as the biking plans and any future development there. An expansion of those facilities. It lies perfectly in the county between our two biggest municipalities, Wisconsin Rapids and Marshfield, and it's a beautiful venue. It's a great place.
Now, have you had a chance at all to visit with the new administration in Madison, or do you?
I have not. I will be doing that shortly. The first week of February, we have our legislative exchange through WCA. I'll be going down there for 3 days. Okay. And that's when I'll make my contacts with.
And during that, I would imagine the governor will either be getting input from you county leaders about, okay, what do I need to put in the budget to help you guys?
Yep. Yeah, well, he's probably done that somewhat through the WCA already. But he'll be, I'm almost positive he'll be addressing our group at some point during that 2-day event. Okay. And we'll also have opportunities to meet with legislators at the Capitol.
Okay, so that's your big time to visit.
I enjoy going.
And in that sense, because of the nature of the executive and the legislative, you get to take care of both sides of the aisle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What would you like to see in the budget? Well, the governor's first budget.
Number one is roads. We need to from the county perspective fiscally, that's our biggest deal. We need to have a secure source of funding for county roads going into the future. That needs to be locked down somehow. That was one of his campaign promises, so I would expect that he's going to address that in some manner. That really gives us an idea where we are in the county as far as revenue for those types of programs. We've been bonding for roads. On a regular basis. So if we can somehow get out of that pattern of being able to bond for roads, it frees us up in a lot of areas to do some things that we would like to do. Maybe not necessarily bonding, but there's a lot of issues that we have coming forward. And I've always been one that talks about revenues and expenses, and it has to make sense, and that gives us a much better picture of where we are.
Okay, and that seems to be. At least both sides talk about it, that they want to reach a consensus on a sustainable source for transportation funding. And that Representative Krug was telling me, he goes, well, one of the things he disagreed with Governor Walker, and that was from his own party, was on this whole issue of transportation and the fact that there was never under consideration anything involving new revenues. And he just did not think that's sustainable.
No, it's not. It's absolutely not. One of the things that I think is promising is that Governor Evers has his new transportation secretary is a former WCA man. And so I think that lends itself to some a pretty good process as far as how he's accepted by the legislature, and ideas that will come from him will be accepted by the legislature. I think he's well thought of, and I think that could buy the governor a lot of traction there. Okay,
so Governor Evers putting somebody in that has connections with county government. I think
that would be a fair statement to say that.
So, okay, as you mentioned, if you could free up some money. And you could start working on some other things in Wood County. What would they be? What would be some of your priority areas?
Well, I think that I think the Powers Bluff project has some real merit. I would certainly like to see us proceed on that sooner rather than later. I think that's a benefit for the constituents in the county. As far as another avenue for recreational use, I think it can drive some revenue. How much, we're not sure, but I think it would be fairly substantial. The executive committee has gone forward with an initiative on solar energy. We're working with a organization out of Washington, D.C. called SoulSmart. We are going to try and attain a certification through them as far as a designation. They have a gold, silver, bronze designation, and basically what they do, and this is all without cost to the county, what they do is they help you align your programmatically anything within your county that would affect a solar installation, whether it be whether it be residential or commercial. Okay. So that would entail things such as perhaps zoning or ordinances that would give people their setbacks, for instance, how big of displays they can have, what kind of property they can be on, whether they can be roof mounted, whether they can be ground mounted, just a general informational type thing. So the red tape is basically cut for these people, so that if you want to put solar on your house, you can go to your municipality or the county and in a snapshot understand how it has to be done, and you don't have to go spend 3 weeks researching. City of Wisconsin Rapids has already received a designation. We want to do that. The city of Marshfield is interested in what we're doing. Any municipality, Grand Rapids, the chairman of Grand Rapids has expressed an interest in doing something like that. There's some real money out there for townships and counties in particular when you start talking about larger arrays.
Yeah. Look at what the McMillan Library.
Yeah.
I mean, and what obviously on a day like today, they're not going to be generating a lot, but on the days when they're generating a lot, they end up selling it to the grid. Yep. I mean, putting it into the grid, and it powers homes or businesses in Wisconsin Rapids.
Yeah, it's 200. I believe that's 235 kilowatt hours that they're generating there. That's a pretty good display. It's the biggest one in town for sure. I'm almost positive.
Oh yeah.
But the fact is, you can. That's a revenue stream. Not only a revenue stream, it can act as a revenue stream at times. But the fact is, you're saving a lot of money. Yeah. As a municipality, if you're looking, if you looked at things like, and again, as we go through the program with SoulSmart, there's other pieces of that where other organizations come in and actually do analytical studies for you on where applications would work in your municipality.
Best locations, in other words.
How viable they will. They'll put the dollars and cents out there for you. It's not a matter of you having to do anything. The only thing we have to do is initially with SoulSmart is to dedicate some staff time so that they can get the proper numbers and look at our programs that we have in place now and make sure that they can be adjusted or things like that. In fact, I look at your board when I came in this morning. I see that Nancy Turek is going to be here this afternoon.
Yeah.
Nancy Turek is one of our staff people that's going to be involved with that program, and she understands that program very well and what it can and can't do for us.
That technology is expanding rapidly.
Oh,
and it's no longer, does this work? It works.
Literally by the minute.
You have a reading Wisconsin Rural Cooperative or Rural Electric Cooperative magazine. Mm-hmm. The rural cooperatives are getting into it. Mm-hmm. I mean, so the technology is here.
Oh,
it's here. And utilities are seeing, hey, we can save money on some of this costs, and this is much more sustainable long term than, say, depending on coal.
Absolutely, and that's the real advantage of it. And what can be more secure than that? If you're producing your own power, I like to look at it as in terms of, and this is probably pie in the sky at this point, but if you look at a place like Edgewater, mm-hmm. and you can do things like microgrids where you actually create your own power grid for a facility. And
like what's done at the library.
Yeah, exactly. And if that can be done in a sustainable way, what does that do for security of a facility where there's a vulnerable population like Edgewater? Where are you going to send? Where do you want to send your grandmother in a place that says, you know what, we develop our own power. You don't ever have to worry about a tornado coming through and wiping out the high lines or knocking out us off the grid because we're going to produce our own power. We have the supplies right here. You never have to worry about oxygen pump being turned off or any kind of a monitoring device. No. That's incredibly secure. What's a national power grid? When you talk about national security, I mean, if you want to take the discussion and extrapolate it that far, when you talk about national security, what's more ridiculous than having a power grid?
Yeah.
We have the technology, literally, that every house in this city could develop their own power.
Yeah. And a lot of people, and there's a lot of interest. I've talked to contractors. It's one of the hottest selling items is people investing in some type of solar technology.
And not only that, but the number of jobs that it's creating within the state would blow your mind.
Oh, yeah.
They are creating jobs left and right.
Well, I've talked to the people at Mid-State Technical College with their program. And they have no problem placing at graduates. In fact, when their students graduate, they got multiple offers
we have
on the
not
table.
Come close to saturation there. And not only that, but when you mentioned Mid-State, that's one of the things that we can collaborate. Those are areas of collaboration as we go forward with SolSmart as a county. We're looking at collaborative efforts, maybe with Grand Rapids, maybe with the city of Marshfield, maybe with Mid-State, maybe with UW Extension, maybe with the UW campus in Stevens Point. I've talked to Chancellor Patterson about because they have a very extensive program up there as far as renewables and sustainables, and they want to incorporate that on their campuses. So maybe we do a project with them somewhere down the line. It all makes sense, and not only that, but it makes fiscal sense. That's the best thing. You can't do it you can't do anything without having to make fiscal sense.
It's something that's going to the payback is going to be great.
Exactly.
Well, as always, we run out of time. But I have a whole bunch of more questions we could talk about. But I'm going to let you hopefully you're feeling back. You're sounding better, and hopefully remember flu shot next year.
Oh, absolutely. This is the last. I told my wife this is the last year that Doug goes without getting the flu shot. Before we leave, I would like to give a quick shout out to our Human Services Director, Brandon Verwink. His young daughter just went through some surgery in Madison this week, and I'd like to say hello to Addie, and hopefully you're back on your feet real quick and back in school, and things are going well, so we're thinking about you.
Yeah, amen to that. Okay, well, you have yourself a great week, and we'll talk again next month.
Thanks, Carl.
That's Wood County Board Chairman Doug Machon, and that's going to wrap up part one of today's Morning Magazine on AM 1320 and streaming live at WFHR.com. We also thank Jesse from Wisconsin Rapids Community Media for being here to shoot the video for this segment.